Hello everyone, this is Daily Inspiration, and now we're going to hear or to listen to the Word of God. And I just want to inspire you through His Word today as we hear the topic about hear God's voice. Is God still speaking today? Is it possible to hear the voice of God? So the number one is that the need to hear. In Matthew chapter 4, verse 4, man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceeded out of the mouth of God. This word proceeded speaks of a present continuing function. Means something that happened in the past is happening in the present and will happen in the future. This verse could be translated, man lives by every word that has been spoken and continues to be spoken in ages past, is speaking to the present and will continue to speak in the future. God is not a dumb God. In every area of ministry, we need to hear God's voice. What then hinders us of hearing God's voice? Number one is that hearts not perfect before God. In 2 Chronicles chapter 16 verse 9, for the eyes of the Lord search back and forth across the whole earth, looking people whose hearts are perfect toward Him, so that He can show His great power in helping them. So the people in the Bible times understood the heart to be the seat of emotions or affection, motives, the intention of the person. So God is vitally concerned with these things. Worldly affections, if our affections are set on the things on the earth rather than the things in heaven, this offends God. In 1 John chapter 2 verse 15, love the world, neither the things that are in the world. If any man love the world, the true love of the Father is not in him. So the Bible tells us to love God with all our heart, soul, mind, and strength in Matthew chapter 22, verse 37. The next is this, impure motives. Just for example, in Numbers chapter 22, when Balaam, so he bartered God-given miraculous gifts for money, for fame, and prestige. That is the impure motives. And the next is the wrong intention. Like, for example, in Acts chapter 5, when Ananias and Sapphira, so were pretending to give all their money to the work of the Lord, but were really keeping back much of it for themselves. Their intent was wrong, and that God killed them. So we need to guard our affections, our motives, and intentions to make sure that they are pure. God knows our heart, my dear friends. In 1 Samuel chapter 6 verse 7, for man looketh on the outward appearance, but the Lord looketh on the heart. So the second thing is that hardness of heart. Why we cannot hear the voice of God is that there is a hardness of heart. In Hebrews chapter 4 verse 7 says that today, if you want to hear His voice, do not harden your hearts. So what hardens our hearts is that unforgiveness stops God's voice. If we have this spirit of unforgiveness, so it will stop that you cannot hear the voice of God. The second thing is that forgiveness brings a return of God's voice. So if we can forgive, then we can hear again the voice of God. And the third is that the unregenerated condition. What I mean is that if you are not yet born again, then that you cannot hear the word of God. You cannot hear the voice of God. The number 4 is this disobedience stops God's voice. So to hear God's voice doesn't mean to hear with your ears. It means to respond obediently to what he said in Romans chapter 10 verse 17. So then faith comes by hearing, and hearing the word of God. So faith can be defined as obedient actions to what God says. And thank you for having time in listening to the word of God, and I know that God will bless your heart. Thank you so much for listening, and may the Lord bless each one of you.